You know, here's the device that came out of nowhere, the Mangmi Pocket Max. Out of every handheld this year, I'm more surprised with this thing than even something like the Odin 3. Why do I think this handheld is so cool, but also kind of disappointing? It's not a bad handheld, but it's not a perfect one either. But it comes so close in so many different ways. Let's hop in and take a closer look at this oddball of a device and why I think you should give it a try, or maybe perhaps skip it. So without further ado, let's just hop in. First things first, I gotta thank today's sponsor, my wallet, for providing the funds for this video, because without it, I really couldn't have bought it. So what makes this handheld kind of cool is the price. It's $219 US, which ended up costing me about 300 Canadian by the time I had it at my door. It has a pretty modest Snapdragon 865, which is not really new, but it's not ancient either. It gives you enough power for a lot of different things. You get 8 gigabytes of LPDDR4X and 128 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. But the star feature here on this device in particular is the 7-inch 144Hz AMOLED display and that 8,000 milliamp hour battery. And you know, it's been interesting. My first impression with this device when I first opened it was, is this AYANEO? Because it really felt like it. Everything about the design, from the large paddle-like triggers to the premium aesthetic of the body, it just feels like AYANEO. The plastic's pretty high quality, but it's not something durable like you'd find on the Odin 3. In a way, I guess that feels more like a OEM plastic. This still feels high quality, but it feels a little thin. Not bad enough that it's gonna bother me, and nothing concerning, but you do feel it. Let's do a quick overview of the device. On the top, you have the 2 bumpers and the 2 triggers. There's a very small air vent at the top. You have the volume buttons and the power button. On the sides, you can notice that huge ergonomic grip. This is one of the big standout features of this handheld. It feels even more comfortable than the Portal was when I tried that. On the bottom, there's the USB-C that supports video out with 27-watt fast charging. You also got a headphone jack and a micro SD card slot, as well as a small microphone. There's nothing on the back but a huge air intake right over the fan and 2 paddles. I don't really use these, but they are kind of clicky. Here's something that's kind of cool. You get really unique face buttons. These can be swapped out. By default, it's using rubber membrane, but you can swap these out to micro switches. I like quiet as I tend to use these in public a lot, so I've kept the rubber membrane ones. And the joysticks are full-size joysticks. In fact, these are the exact same joystick as you find on the Gully Kick controllers. They make awesome joysticks, good anti-friction rings, solid durability, and their Hall effect, which means no drift. The reason I bought this was for light PC games, and we'll talk more about that later. But the durability and just the placement of these, it makes them incredible to use. If you're going to buy something like this for streaming, it's also a really good handheld in that regard because you got perfect placement for your face buttons and full-size joysticks. These paddle triggers are also excellent for something like racing. All in all, I think the first experience you have with this device, just picking it up and holding it, is likely to be a really positive one. But I don't know, there's a lot to talk about with this device. You also get your back and home buttons on the front with 2 really small front-facing speakers. They're not bad, but I can show you them later. Turning it on, you're greeted by that beautiful AMOLED display. You get perfect blacks, and there's no blooming around any of the text. I also really like their startup logo. It's kind of neat. On the top, they have a desktop mode, which is kind of interesting. This swaps into their game interface, but you can swap that back pretty quick too. It's pretty mind-blowing what you can get for $200 US these days. Like I said on my last video, the fact that you can get things like this these days compared to when this hobby started, with me anyways, with 351p, These devices are in a completely different league all their own. I wanted to focus on what I use this device for and why it's important to me. Android has a lot of great games lately, don't they? You know, one I've been playing a lot of, and one I played on my flight to Japan a couple years ago, was Loop Hero. This one in particular has so much replay value. You can play this thing for hours and you just will not get bored. It's a fun, simple game, but the gameplay loop itself, I think, is what makes this enjoyable. The combat's pretty simple, but the upgrading mechanics are neat. So yeah, basic games like this run without any issues on this device. Even high-end games like Subnautica are just remarkably quick on this one. With big games like Subnautica, it makes it very easy to see all the UI. I don't know what the graphic options are set to by default, but whatever it is, it works pretty good. Okay, so I have the landscape detail set to high, the resolution will set to high, FPS cap, I'm just gonna leave this on 60. Wow, does it look nice on this panel. Look at those colors. I guess the bad thing about this device in particular too is you'll only get 128 gigs of internal storage. See how much I've installed. I really haven't even checked. Yeah, so I've installed some, but those games are taking up 50 gigabytes of my files already, which means I only really have 35% of the storage left. So Android games are playable. The experience is pretty good. I haven't found any that don't run, including Subnautica. You know, everything just seems to work pretty decent on here. I think I had a few others in my library though. Let's try Skull the Hero Slayer and Streets of Rage, Titan Quest. So there's one that doesn't run, and that's Wreckfest, which kind of sucks. Wreckfest is one of the best racing games for Android. It's essentially a PC port. You can also run the new Warframe on here too, which is pretty neat. So I guess let's just download these and give them a try, see how they work. I think Skull the Hero Slayer is an interesting one because this also is pretty picky with the controller. So if the controller works with this, I'm pretty optimistic that it should work with any other Android game. This doesn't seem to be working. I mean, it recognizes the start button, but yeah, that's weird. None of the other controls work. This usually works on other devices too, so it's odd that it's not working here. There's nothing in the settings either to enable it, so that's, you don't know. That's kind of disappointing, honestly. Wreckfest doesn't work. Let's try Streets of Rage. This one is gorgeous on this display. I'm having no issues with the controls here. You might also see some flickering. I see some on my monitor, but if I'm looking down at the device, the screen looks fine. So it could just be the way my camera is recording it. So the joystick works, all the buttons work, everything feels super responsive. The D-pad works too. Yeah, no issues. I guess it just might be Skull the Hero Slayer or something, I don't know. Weird. Titan Quest is another PC port. This one's got slightly better graphics than Streets of Rage 4. It's fully 3D too, so this one might be a better use just to test the power of this device. No, the controls aren't working. Yeah, I don't know why the controls aren't working. They were working in a lot of the other games I tested, so it's weird to see that it's having issues with a few. No, nothing. Oh, this brings up the menu. That's odd. Nothing else is working though. So Android games, I guess they're hit or miss. I tried a few. Let's try one more. Let's try Scourgebringer. Here's something that's kind of interesting too. When you're playing like Android games, if you try to log into your Google Play account, it works and you can download your stuff. But Google Play Games is giving me this error. I've never seen that before on any other device. Oh, I tried it again and then it went through. Well, the controls work fine on this game, so I don't know. It's just hit or miss on the games. I gotta say though, when the games work, it's just so much fun playing Android games on this device. Hopefully Mangmi can update it so more games work with the controller. I'm not just sure, maybe it's how they implemented the controller or something. I gotta say, when I took my Odin 2 to Japan on the flight, it was pretty big, but it was nice having that big screen for movies and games. I actually ended up playing the Retroid Pocket Mini version 1 that I had a lot more than the Odin 2. But on that flight though, it was pretty hard to put down a big screen device. I think if I had to go on a flight now, this is the kind of screen size that I'd want. The funny thing is it still pales in comparison to the size of the screen on something like an x86 device. This might be a little hard using on a plane. I don't know, I've never taken an x86 handheld on a flight. It just kind of seems like that special middle ground between portability, size. It's a good sized device. I think that's kind of why I enjoyed the Odin 2 Portal too. I'm not going to cover a lot of emulation. If you want to play anything Dreamcast or under, or even GameCube, you're going to be fine. But of course, other higher end systems are just going to be hit or miss, including PC emulation, and that's primarily the reason that I bought this. As of recording this video, I've switched everything away from GameHub, and I'm using Game Native exclusively. This lets you use your Steam games, GOG games, Epic games, Amazon games, and even custom games. For most of the games though, I'm using 720p. It's not really a high-end system, and I've topped off the device memory at 2 GB. I've tried a few different Mr. Purple drivers, and I think the T22 is probably the most stable. I'm also using Fex Core as the 32-bit emulator, and I'm using the performance preset. Some games boot, some games don't even work. For general use, I've kind of found like Dead Cells, light visual novels like Steins Gate work great, but when you start getting into that modern indie era, stuff has issues. In fact, I've probably spent more tinkering with this, trying to get these ones to work, than on any other system, including the Odin 3. That one seems a lot more hands-off. Even if I use the known config for that, sometimes it just doesn't work. I don't know, I really thought with how common the 865 drivers were that more games would work. Even games that I got working like Megabonk run way worse than I thought. I'm using the Proton 9 ARM version with 720p, 2 GB of device memory. I'm using the 2.4.1 DXVK and the 25 R1 driver. I'm getting about 45 to 50 FPS. You can feel occasional hiccups, but for the most part, it is a pretty playable experience. I could play Megabonk on here all day. In fact, doing pretty good this run. It's funny because with Megabonk, there's also a fix that allows you to get better FPS if you go into your settings and turn off the input delay. By default, this is at 1 or 2. Even with this set to 0, 40 to 50 FPS is about as good as you're going to get on this chip, at least with the settings that I have. I also recommend turning off VSync as it feels slightly stuttery with it. This frame time graph is much better with that off. I guess I'm happy with the Mangmi Pocket Max because this is the kind of stuff that I wanted to play on it. Just light indie PC games. When you're on the go, you want a device that has good battery life, but you also have to have comfortable controls. PC games rely heavily on joystick input, and having this on the top is paramount. There's just so many different things at play here, enhancing the experience with PC stuff. You got full-size joysticks on the top, nice big screen, good ergonomics on the back, nice triggers, and good controls. This entire thing is literally just being held back by the chip itself. That's the only bad thing about this entire experience. The 865 is not bad, but in no way is it a flagship performer. It also remains really cool to the touch too. I don't notice any heat on this thing when playing it. And here's something I thought I would never have. AYANEO sent this over as an apology for all the issues that I had as a customer, not as a reviewer. But the screen on this, the battery on this, and the cooling on this is so bad that I have already factory reset it. I do not like this handheld. The screen on this is just so smeary. I could make a whole rant about how much I hate this thing. The battery life is horrendous. If I play Megabonk for like 30 minutes, my battery goes down to like 30%. 70% in 30 minutes? That's crazy. This, on the other hand, is maybe like 10% drain in 30 minutes. Maybe slightly more, but there's a huge difference in battery and efficiency between these two devices. The 8,000 milliamp hour battery in this is making a huge overall bonus experience in the fact that it's making this what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a handheld. This is not a handheld. It wants to be, and it looks like one, but it sure isn't in a lot of ways. Not only that, but like I said, this one runs cool. This gets so hot, I've measured the sides at 40 degrees Celsius. If you guys have ever put your hand on 40 degrees Celsius metal, it's not a pleasant experience, and I wouldn't recommend it. In Canadian winters, though, it's not bad if you're sitting in your car. Anyways, I could make a whole rant about this thing. I don't like it, but compared to this, it's night and day. It's quiet too. Like the fan in this is just so whisper quiet. Even when playing PC games, you don't hear it. It's not getting hot. It's not draining a ton of battery. This is exactly what I wanted in the Odin 3. You know, it's interesting because a lot of the handhelds we have now are so close to being perfect. This one gets a lot of good aspects put into one. If you could take the heart of the Odin 3 and transplant it into this, that would be my endgame handheld. I would sell every ARM handheld that I own for a device with those specs. Give me a big screen like this. Give me huge battery, full-size joysticks, nice controls, and with that Snapdragon 8 Elite, oh man, that would be so amazing. If you're debating between this and something like the Retroid Pocket 5 or some other budget devices from Anbernic, get this. If you have the money, because of the chip's power alone, and the ergonomics are still decent on this, I would go for the Odin 3. I know AYN will make the Odin 3 portal, and when I do, I cannot wait for that thing. Having this and this just makes me more excited about the perfect hybrid with both of these. I haven't really talked a lot about the Odin 3, but if you saw my 24 hours review, you know I was on the fence. This became my 90% of the time handheld. I use this more than a lot of other stuff right now. But the thing I'm surprised with is that a company that I've had little to no dealings with came out of nowhere. They delivered a handheld that only has one trade-off, the performance. It shipped in a week. They didn't have this fancy color behind a tier paywall. So I guess if anything I've learned is that you really have to keep your mind open, because sometimes companies just come out of nowhere and surprise everyone. I am now more excited about Mangmi than I am with many other companies. You know, it's cool because as reviewers, you get to try a lot of this stuff. But as customers, we have to be very careful about what we buy. You don't know if it's going to be good enough for your use cases. And that's probably why you're watching this. We don't always have money to buy 2 or 3 devices. You just want one really good device, and you want to know that you're going to be happy with it. I don't know if Mangmi is ever going to see this review, but Mangmi, you're doing something right, and I cannot wait to see what you have come out next. I never tried their older device, the Air X, but the Pocket Max is something special. Just to come out of nowhere and do a home run device like this is just incredible. The screen alone, in YouTube, you can get 4K HDR with it. And the color quality, the vibrancy, everything about it, it just looks gorgeous. Aside from the portal, there's no other screen in the handheld arena that comes close to this kind of quality. If you're a screen fanatic like me, you want something with good color, fast motion clarity, sharp detail, and heck, even a fast refresh rate. I don't know, this screen just checks all the boxes that I look for in a panel. You don't even get really a bezel. Oh, I just love this screen. You know what else is really cool though? The fact that you can watch streaming on here. You're not gonna get full HD Netflix, but you can get full HD Crunchyroll. And with the colors on the screen, yeah, this is a great device for media streaming. So what's my final thoughts on the Mangmi Pocket Max? It's much better than I expected. You get some excellent controls. The triggers, the bumpers, everything about this device, control-wise, is top-notch in my experience. The D-pad is accurate, and it's nice how they give you the option to swap these out. Joysticks are excellent as well. Full size with good anti-friction rings. That's hard to find on a device. Face buttons are also excellent too. Everything about this device checks all the boxes in what I'm looking for. Even the ergonomics, That's something that I was kind of surprised by. I didn't expect to find them this comfortable. For the 300 Canadian that I spent on this, I'm pleasantly surprised. My one and only concern with this is the performance. The 865 is already old, and we're gonna feel that a lot more as emulation demands more and more. I mean, we're also kind of limited in RAM. There's only 8 gigabytes, and 128 gigs of storage fills up really fast. But for what you're paying, I think you'll be pretty happy with the Mangmi Pocket Max. It's funny, I almost forgot to show you what these speakers sound like. If you don't know, our Ghost did the intro for me and Retro Game Core's videos. So let's check it out and see what it sounds like. That's my overall experience with the Mangmi Pocket Max, but now I want to know, what do you think of this device? Has it exceeded your expectations like it has mine, and are you keeping an eye on Mangmi in the future? And I got my wallet ready for whoever puts a Snapdragon 8 Elite into a device exactly like this. I don't know about you, but I had fun hanging out. Let me know what you think of this device. Are you picking one up? And as always, we'll catch you later.